Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wisdom Seeker Live. We're glad to be back after a couple of weeks off. Various life challenges and issues kept us off the air for a couple of weeks, but very glad to be back today. I want to welcome everyone to Wisdom Seeker Live and encourage you as you join to be sure and let us know where you're joining from and want to hear your questions, comments, thoughts as we approach the topic today. And as always, the way we start off the show is to talk about how we see wisdom, and from the vantage point of Wisdom Seeker Live, see wisdom as a process, and we see it as a three steps, and be sure to consider these steps. So, as we see wisdom, wisdom starts with knowledge, and it is knowledge is facts, figures, information that we can gain as we go along and choose to pick up that data and information. And so, that's the first step in the process. Unfortunately, there are many who will stop there. We've been told in the past that there is power in knowledge, and I have to disagree that knowledge is knowledge, and there's no power in it by itself. And so, next step in this process towards gaining wisdom is to begin to gain understanding. And understanding is based in experience, and it's where we begin to take the knowledge and data that we've gathered and do something with it. We begin to apply it in our lives, and we begin to hopefully make good choices, find good outcomes, and we begin to uh, use it well and pick up and gain those experiences. But the place that many never get to is the leap to wisdom. And the difference between knowledge, understanding, and wisdom has to do with our perspective. And it has to do with the lens that we see our knowledge and understanding. And the lens that we're looking for is that much bigger perspective on everything, and to a point that we see things not just about ourselves and not just about inwardly and outwardly of ourselves, but that we see how what we do, say, choices we make impact others, those around us, and all over. And so it's that much bigger perspective as we begin to understand the more of the consequences of our choices and how it impacts not just us but other people. And that's when we go from knowledge and understanding to finding wisdom. And for those of us that are of a spiritual bent, the way we kind of express that is we begin to see things through God's eyes. And what that means for us is that we begin to see things through the eyes of love and compassion, and considering what is good and right and things like that. So wisdom is the place that we all need to get to as quickly as possible and as often as possible. One of the things about wisdom is that it is a choice. It is a decision we make to seek it out and find it. And it's a lifelong process, and generally part of a contributor to wisdom in our lives is through struggle, adversity, and dealing with that. because that's one of the things that we all experience and will experience regardless. So that's what we mean by wisdom as we speak from Wisdom Seeker Live. And so our topic today, and this was recommended and requested from a good friend, Jeremy Rudidus. And what we're going to talk about is wisdom in regards to AI. And so I'm hoping we can begin to gain some insight and understanding on the topic, because it is a massive topic. It is something that is already impacting us and going to impact us greatly. Before we get into the topic, I want to welcome our wisdom seekers here today. Mambo, glad to have you. And Wendy, good to see you with us this morning. Razim, you also. Toyin, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. Rosemary, always good to see you. Lydia as well. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to hearing what your thoughts are as well. Let me go ahead and tell you, I am not an AI expert. I am not technically astute on all aspects of AI. I have become informed, and because I do have some technical background and all, I have some understanding. And the goal today is not to necessarily take apart AI and how it works and so on. The goal today is to really look at it and make sure that we are considering AI from a wise perspective. And I think my concern is that currently we may be approaching this in a bit of a foolish fashion. And welcome, Eunice. Always glad to have you with us as well. And what I mean by foolish is another way of saying unwise, because again, this concept and this topic have a lot of implications in our lives that we truly have to consider. And part of the perspective of wisdom gives us that bigger picture look, and it's based on not just facts, figures, and data. It's based on past experience that is similar or related to a given topic, such as AI and technology. It also, for those that are wisdom seekers, hopefully includes a part, because again, more about wisdom is that to grow in wisdom involves more than just our mind. Wisdom is not just about our mind. Wisdom is an insight that we gain when we are using our entire person to look at life. We are body, soul, and spirit. There are three components to us. And when we're engaged with all three components at as deep a level as possible, it provides additional perspective and insight that we don't have when we are just basing things on knowledge or even just understanding. It's a deeper thought. So part of my hope is, as we seek wisdom on AI, is that we are going to be using all parts of us, which includes instincts or intuitiveness or gut, however you like to approach it. But I think that if, in order for us to be wise as we look at this topic and consider how it unfolds, that we really must approach it wisely. And I find that there are people, most notably at the moment, that are raising questions about this. Is, for those of you that follow much in the news, is that Elon Musk, who is a real thought leader in our world today, and is obviously aware of technology, and all has raised the question of, are we approaching this too fast? Are we running headlong into this concept? So there's certainly a reason to stop and consider. And just so you'll know, when I'm talking about AI for our purposes, again, I'm not an expert, don't claim to be, but I want to just lay a foundation. Artificial intelligence is a form of computer program that is able to theoretically have process information at least similar to the way we as humans do, and therefore have a level of intelligence to perform tasks, to retrieve information, to help with organization of information, communication. I know you get into some of the components such as chat, GPT. There's all kinds of different elements of it. We've seen AI being used now, even in some tasks, and we see it used even in interview processes. There are a lot of different places that this is showing up. And so, again, we're not going to get into the technical aspects of AI per se, not the goal of today. And we hardly we're have an hour to go through this, so we hardly have enough time to do an exhaustive conversation. The goal here is, how do we consider this topic and the impact of it wisely, and can we approach this wisely? And part of approaching anything wisely is based on what we have learned in other areas of our life that are similar, and take away lessons. And so, first of all, I want to make it clear, I know that many people involved in this process, they have good intentions to try to help us with being able to do more and better things and to improve life. And I get all that. And I believe that there are a lot of people that is what they're after. It's genuinely good intentions, and they have intend good consequences to come out of it. And so, again, I want to be very upfront in the conversation that this is not necessarily to challenge what people are trying to do at all. This is to get that bigger perspective. So, what does this mean to us? What are the implications, and what are the implications of AI outside of what our intended consequences are? See, if nothing else, if we look around at what we've learned in other areas, is that the intended consequences are not generally the problem. Most times, there are exceptions, but generally speaking, the problem comes in with the unintended consequences that we don't consider before we make choices, which includes not just whether to or not, but to what degree. There are some things that can, in a limited portion, if you will, can be fine and healthy and good. But if it becomes out of priority, if it becomes out of balance, then the unintended consequences can be quite remarkable and quite remarkably bad. And so we just need to really, really consider this because of the widespread implications of what AI can and will mean in our lives. So Rosemary has, let's see, Jeremy, I don't know if I recognized you. Glad to have you. Rosemary has a comment, and I think it's a salient comment. And AI reminds me of the original concept for the computer world, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Indeed, one of the things about AI, okay, and that is that AI is developed by humans, and there are no perfect humans, and therefore, in its design, there is an element of flaw. There's an element of error, imperfection. And that alone opens the door for unintended consequences and something to consider. And I like to look around at our current world and how technological advantage or advances have impacted us already. And what are we dealing with in regards to the result of those technological advances, and us looking at those advances as everything about it's good, and that we should have no limit regards to it. And so that is part of the challenge. And one of those for me that's always very obvious is the area of medical technology. And it is, if we look at medical technology and what was intended and where we are now, there are a lot of unintended consequences that we're now facing a whole set of dilemmas. Let's see, Rosemary has a comment. She says, I entered my own name into AI bots. It was interesting to read the information that the different AI bots responded with. The answers would be laughable if others didn't accept the false information as truth. And you raise a great point there, Rosemary, is that there are people that are going to look at AI as being infallible, and therefore whatever it produces is without question and is to be accepted face value. And that is not the case. In fact, if we take everything any person says at face value without consideration of accuracy and intent and things like that, we're being foolish with that. And what you've mentioned, Rosemary, is that unfortunately there are likely going to be people that will take AI as being a perfect or complete means to get information, and therefore the information must be accurate and true and valuable for making ultimate judgments about people and about situations. And I'm here to tell you, it is no more perfect than human beings, and there are no perfect human beings. We make errors, we make mistakes, we interpret things incorrectly, and AI will do the same because it is humanly designed, it is humanly created. So, object lesson I like to look at is the advances in medical technology. With all of the advances that we've had, we are able to keep people alive longer. And on the surface, that sounds positive and good. And I appreciate the intent. And having had loved ones that have been helped by medical advancement and so on, I appreciate the value that brings. But if we look at where we're at, it has also brought unintended consequences of ethics and consideration in regards to life and choices. I know that at one point, my father was in the hospital and had complications from surgery that was necessary. And we were very close to having to face a dilemma that I don't think that we were ever designed or equipped to handle, and that is, do we keep someone alive with medical technology? Do we pull the plug? And that is an unintended consequence of the advancement of the medical technology. We're faced with an ethical dilemma of, whether to keep someone alive. And I don't think that that is a choice that any of us are equipped to make. Having faced it and almost having to make that decision, I know the struggle that is there. And look at the legal cases that have been held, as a result of this. Some people say that someone should be kept alive, others say no. And so now we have conflict, we have ethical questions that are arising that, in my estimation, we were never intended to deal with, because that is not how we are equipped. That is not our purpose, our job. But it is a consequence of advancement of medical technology. Again, a lot of good things have come from the advancements of medical technology, but there are a lot of unintended consequences and ethical dilemmas creating in and around cloning. I know that continues to be a big issue. Is it ethical? Is it proper to do cloning of humans? And regardless of where you fall on this subject, the whole area of abortion, okay, it's a part of a medical advancement that has occurred, that has given us a capability that has created a lot of ethical, moral conflict that was not intended. But it's as a result of use of medical technology in ways that some would say are bad, some would say are good. But at the end of the day, the consequences are the challenges that it has caused us. And my concern is that AI has the same potential. What Rosemary's question that she has raised about, you put your name into AI to get information back. Well, the question becomes, if it's untrue, how do we deal with the untruth of it? Our current situation is that legally, if someone gives false information, untrue information about us, that we have legal recourse. We can bring suits related to defamation and things like that. But if it's AI that has produced this information, who's culpable? How do we deal with that? And how do we deal with the results of incorrect information as a result of AI? And if the reasoning is incorrect, who's culpable for that? Are we going to blame it on the computer? Are we going to lock up computers? So we really need to explore all the implications related to this and how it can impact us. It can impact us in a good way, but it can also have a very negative impact on us. And then, of course, in the back of everyone's mind who's ever watched any sci-fi movies is the whole idea of AI getting out of control and taking on its own life, and even going so far as to take over the world. Is that far-fetched? Who knows? It's certainly something that we need to consider as we approach this topic. What could happen with the acceptance and widespread use of AI if we don't consider the implications and consequences that can occur? What are those things that could happen as a result? And should we be very careful and measured in our approach to use of it and even acceptance of its use as a culture, as a society. And again, just like Elon Musk has raised the question, are we going too fast? I am of the opinion that we are too quickly choosing as a people, as cultures, as societies to just embrace this without question. And I really think that the only thing that we're going to be able to do that is wise is as individuals begin to ask these questions for ourselves and be willing to say, okay, I don't think that we need to be using this, or we should be wide open and accepting this with wide open arms. That we need to really be measured in how we approach it. And I know that some of us would say, well, I'm one person. Well, one of the things that, again, a wise principle is that if each of us takes responsibility and we choose to stand in our own world and use wisdom in our own world, if enough of us do that, we have a movement. We have an impact that is better and more far reaching and enduring than government intervention or business, money, whatever, by taking this time to become wise for ourselves and then act on the wisdom and insight we've gained. Couple of other thoughts that come to mind. And by the way, I love to hear your thoughts. This is not just about me. This is a collective of people interested in growing in wisdom. So if you have comments, questions, please, I encourage you to put those out there. But the whole concept of artificial intelligence, one of the things, and this is something that others may disagree with, and if you do, I respect your opinion, and I hope that you can respect mine. But we will never create the ability of a computer or a machine to perform and be effective as we are as humans. It may offer the ability to process data more and better and faster, things like that. But one of the elements that we need to really consider is, and I mentioned this at the beginning of the podcast, is that we are made up of three parts. The three parts that we're made up of is a body, a soul, and a spirit. And I know that with artificial intelligence, we've already seen the body part replicated, computers and robots and all that are very capable of even showing some of the agility that we have physically as humans and so on. So that part is kind of a done deal. It's already happening. So I get that. And the problem is when you get into the soul and you get into the spirit, and because the soul is made up of more than one part. Soul includes our mind, which is our human computer, if you will, where we process information. And that's the part that AI is advancing in with machine learning and beginning to process data. And that is without a doubt. I mean, it's being demonstrated on a regular basis. Okay. But where it lacks, and it will always lack, is in the area of the rest part of the soul, which is the emotions and will. And that is a part that we will not be able to replicate, not fully with the capability that we as humans have. And of course, this is a key, is spirit. Okay. we are built with a spirit, and the value of that spirit is that it gives us conscience, moral compass. And the problem is that we cannot expect that AI will have that capability. It may have a pseudo version, but it's going to be a replication of someone's uh, input. It is not done by a creator, a designer with a purpose, with a capability that is greater than we as human have. So one of the things that we've got to understand about AI, it is never going to replicate human capability. It may surpass in processing data better, faster. And I use the term better. I'm not even sure better. Process it faster and come to conclusions and information. So we just need to understand that AI is not going to be a perfect system. It is not going to be capable of having conscious and making judgments and having wisdom. AI may be highly intelligent in terms of data, facts, and figures, but AI will not have the capability to make the leap to wisdom and therefore respond wisely. That is my contention, and I know there are those that might argue that, and I appreciate the difference. But one thing I do say is we have to consider these as possibilities as part of the view of AI and where it will go and what will happen. Let's see. Rosemary offers a comment. She says, I carry the enduring medical power of attorney for a very dear friend, and the one thing she has made explicit is that she does not want to be attached to any machines to keep her breathing in the faint hope that the Lord will provide her with a miracle. My friend has a wonderful relationship with the Lord, and when she asked me to accept the responsibility of preventing life supporting, I had to come to terms within myself and then accept that my own relationship with the Lord is strong enough for me. Again, and I understand, Rosemary, I am medical power of attorney for my own mother. And as I approach that responsibility, it truly causes me to take pause and consider, am I prepared on any level to make those kind of choices on my own? And I tell you, it rattles me, and the implications really make me pause for thought. I know one of the things that I do, as you know, my mom is aged, and we're dealing with late in life issues, is that while she is still capable, I talk to her and say, what is your desire? What is your value set? What is your priority in regards to this? So that my goal is to just simply act in accordance with her will. But what I do know is there may be circumstances that I'm going to face that I'm not prepared for in terms of making those choices. And it's a real challenge. It's a dilemma that we face over medical technology and the so-called advancements. And these are the same kinds of dilemmas that, if we're not very careful in regards to AI, that we're going to be facing. These ethical dilemmas that put us in positions that we were not intended to. So thank you for that, Rosemary. You have gone to the core of the concept of how do we approach AI wisely. And part of that is to consider these various unintended consequences that we're going to have to deal with and face. Lee makes the comment, says that the machines don't have emotions or a conscience. So true. And it's something that we have to really consider as we approach this. And I know AI isn't out there, and don't know that we're going to just say, okay, we're going to put a stop to it. That ship has sailed. But as people of moral conscience and freedom of choice and expression, that we can have an impact if enough of us begin to think about and approach this in a wise fashion. And one of the things that I do, or what that I believe, and I agree with Elon Musk, we need to slow this down. Now, whether that's in the form of legal action to limit it, I don't know. But certainly, as a culture, as a society, as a people, we need to put our hand up and say, whoa, let's slow this down a bit. Let's consider these things before we just jump into this and embrace it wholeheartedly. Let's see. Lydia has a couple of comments. Says, I strongly believe that we need to apply wisdom in all aspects, with the leading of intuition in every decision made as our guidance. No doubt, Lydia. Part of the reason that we have this podcast is for that very thing, for all of us to truly seek to be wise in all aspects of our lives. Let's not base it just on knowledge or understanding, because without wisdom, we're missing so much that we need to truly make good and wise choices for us personally, as well as for us as a part of the community that we call our world. Let's see. Lydia also comments, there's always pros and cons involved. There's no perfection in everything. Indeed. Again, AI, as Rosemary pointed out, with what you find out, AI is not a perfect capability. It's not a perfect concept. I don't care how long it is around and it advances, it will not be perfect, because it's created by imperfect human beings. And we've got to have that core understanding. And we've got to consider that what AI produces is going to be flawed, period. Because the level at which AI approaches and deals with things is on a mental, knowledge-based level. It is not based in, it does not include an area of conscious. It does not include an area of consideration and intuition and other aspects that we as human have in order to make judgments. Welcome, Dr. Shama. Glad to have you. Always good to see and hear from you. Jeremy makes a comment. He says, AI can be beneficial, yet it can unintentionally create mental health issues. Indeed. As we're talking about the unintended consequences, levels of stress that can be produced as a result. It's great that in some ways that AI can produce data for us at rapid speeds and large amounts. The problem is, are we prepared to handle that outcome? And are we prepared to consider the implications of it? And what I see is that we are going to add stress to our lives, because using this produces more data, more information, and we as a people, as culture, as society, are already overloaded, and it's a factor in stress. So, um, indeed, Jeremy, what you say is mental health issues is going to be another unintended consequence of us just embracing and allowing AI to be a part of our life unchallenged and unconsidered. And it's something that we need to be careful of. It is going to show whether we will behave wisely or not. And I really believe that, along with some other factors culturally, AI is going to be one of those defining concepts or defining events in our world that will determine or help us determine how wise or unwise we are. Um, Lydia makes comment that anything that's against our consciousness and peace of mind is not acceptable. Some would argue that the that AI is going to help us with peace of mind for, because we're processing information and so on. And but the problem is, again, what are the unintended consequences that are coming along and that we need to consider? And that's my big point, is we need to really, really think this through and understand the implications of it, and really consider the impacts of it, and what will happen. And we just really need to explore that and think it through before we choose to embrace this and choose to be wise on what happens. Choose to influence things by using our wisdom and our ability in that regard. And that is what I encourage all of us to do in regards to our approach to AI. Let's approach this wisely. Let's consider the consequences. Let's consider the implications. Let's consider all aspects of it. And what I would encourage each of us to do is to really approach this with a measured approach, with a level of skepticism, to ask the questions before each of us individually choose to embrace this, that we consider, should we just without question embrace it. I think that we really have to think this through, and something to really, again, pause. And I go to one of the leading thinkers in technology in our lives, and that's Elon Musk and his comments. And I know his comments are valid because I don't trust just pure media sources. I've seen the interviews, and so I'm confident that that's what he's expressed. And Dr. Shama makes a comment, and that is that she doesn't think we're prepared. And frankly, I agree. I don't think culturally, socially, mentally, emotionally, that we're prepared for the full embrace of AI in our world. I know I'm very confident legally we're not prepared for all the questions it's going to raise in our world, in our life, the ethical decisions, the ethical considerations. I'll give you an example of technological advancements that have the potential to do a lot of good. but by their very presence has already created ethical dilemma. For those of you that don't know, I have an extensive background in the world of construction and have been engaged and involved in it for over 40 years. And I know y'all find that hard to believe that I could be old enough to have been in and around it for that long, but it is reality. Just trying to lighten the moment a little bit, folks. But anyway, there is an advancement, technological advancement in the construction world that has can do a lot of good. And that advancement's called building information modeling. And for those of you that are not familiar with it, little background, historically, when you deal in the world of construction, you have someone that has money that wants to spend to build something. They're the owner. The owner approaches an engineer and an architect and says, I want you to design this building, whatever it is. The architect and engineer gather the information from the owner, and as a result of that information, they will design a structure. And the design is supposed to be aesthetically pleasing, but it's also supposed to be safe and sound based on current standards of understanding engineering. And so what happens is that this design is completed by architects and engineers and then approved by the owner. And at that point, once that's done, the next step in the process historically would be to find a contractor that would be willing to follow the design and instructions to build this building. And what happens is there is a clean handoff between the architects, engineers, and the contractor. And so what happens is the plan design is completed by the architects and engineers, and their responsibility on the whole is resolved. And now the legal responsibility for this building has now been handed off to the builder to complete the construction of this building according to design. And then once the building is completed and to the satisfaction of the owner, then the building is handed off from the contractor to the owner of the building. And with it, much of the legal responsibility is handed off as well. So, and I know that there are, implications and things that are a part of this, but generally it's a process that has been around for a while. Well, along comes building information modeling. And as a result of building information modeling, which means that you have the architects and engineers and everybody involved actually help with part of the design process. And this building is built virtually in 3 dimensions. In fact, it's very advanced to a point that you can see the building and its location and implications in terms of weather and everything else. I mean, it's quite remarkable. The problem is, since this building gets built virtually beforehand, the challenge is that the handoff and who is legally responsible, morally responsible for what happens has become much less clear. And as a result, the moral and legal implications are having to be considered as through this process. Is it, again, it's not a bad thing, because this process can allow us to build these buildings better and even save money doing so, but in the process has created ethical, legal considerations that we didn't have before. And that is the unintended consequences. And in fact, I will tell you, in the construction world, building information modeling has been slow to come into acceptance because enough people, before embracing it completely, have said, okay, what are the legal and moral uh, issues that we face? What are the unintended consequences? And as a result, the construction industry still has not fully embraced building information modeling as the method of by which to perform what it does. And I believe that that is an example of due caution being considered before embracing it, before just wholeheartedly accepting it. So, as we approach AI and the implications of AI in our world, that we really need to ask the question, should we slow things down? By the way, welcome, George. Glad to have you from Scotland. Appreciate you being here. So, what we really need to do, in my estimation, if we're going to approach this concept of AI wisely, is we need to slow things down before we are so quick to just embrace AI as this new latest, greatest, best way to do things. Is to consider, are there consequences that we need to be aware of and take into account before embracing this and before just wholeheartedly accepting it? And again, the question is, can we put the genie back in the bottle in terms of the capability of AI? Not at all. It's already there. It's already impacting in a lot of ways. And it's been around, by the way, in one form or another for probably, I'm going to estimate, even 40 years. The challenge is that it is coming to the forefront, and some of the capabilities and applications have been developed, including Chat GPT and this whole aspect of gathering data on subjects, including people, and how we use that, and how we embrace it. So again, I recognize the value that it can offer, and certainly can do that. But I think, just like Elon Musk has offered, we need to slow this down. We need to be very much more thoughtful and measured in how we respond to this. And the key to this is going to be a movement of wise people. And I hope that Wisdom Seeker Live podcast can be a part of that, be a part of the leader in looking at this and giving it wise consideration. Should we just wholeheartedly embrace this and move forward without caution? I don't think so. I think we need to have lots and lots of red flags of caution up, and that again, we have to make a choice first individually, with personal responsibility. And I think that as part of that, we then, using impact, influence on those around us, say, let's be careful. Let's not approach this without due consideration. Let us not approach this without considering the unintended consequences. That it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and what, because they're going to happen. We've seen it previously, but we've just not taken the time to consider it. And I'm encouraging wisdom seekers to be part of the effect where we stand up and we say, okay, let's truly consider the consequences, not just the intended, but the unintended consequences involved in this. And should we embrace it? And I'm not looking for, at this point, suggesting legal effect and legal impact. I think the greater thing that we need to do is to be, the old saying is, all we need for evil to abound is for good people to do nothing. And what I'm encouraging all wisdom seekers to do is not be guilty of doing nothing. Okay, do something. First of all, become aware and grow and learn in regards to this. And second of all, use the concept of wisdom in regards to this, and really approach it and look at it from that bigger perspective, that and based in our experiences and our instincts, our intuitions, our gut. There is value there. We have to be careful because we can be misled. But I think that we need to consider all of this and make a personal choice. Am I going to just, with open arms, embrace AI and take it as being great and wonderful and not to be challenged? For me, no. I'm approaching it with great skepticism and concern. And that doesn't mean that I would lead a movement to, make AI illegal or something. I think that, first of all, I think that ship sailed. Second, I think that's unwise. I think, though, that what we need to do as wisdom seekers is do what we talk about, and that's to seek wisdom in regards to AI and how we choose to respond, how we choose to accept or reject aspects of it. And if enough people that are wisdom seekers will make those decisions for themselves, it will impact people around us. Because whether or not we like to think about it, we are all influencers. We have influence. Some people have a greater circle of influence, but at the end of the day, we all have influence. And if we use that influence and use it wisely, then we can impact things and hopefully help to bring a wise approach to the area of AI and how it unfolds. We can have an impact. Most of the historical impacts in our world haven't been done, or at least initially anyway, done through money, through big business, through legal government. It has been a movement of people of conscience over issues. And I think that we do well as wisdom seekers to stand up, gain wisdom in regards to AI, and then use that wisdom to begin to make choices to impact how that will happen. If we don't, okay, you can write this down. If we don't, the unintended consequences that we're going to face in regards to this are going to be scary. And we're talking on the level of medical, legal, ethical dilemmas that we face today. With AI, I believe that those medical, ethical dilemmas are going to be much greater than what we're seeing even in regards to medical or other areas. We've really got to approach this wisely. If we don't, the implications and the unintended consequences are frankly kind of scary. The good news is we can impact it, but we have to make a choice as wisdom seekers, as people really concerned with our future and the future of our children and grandchildren. We need to really approach this wisely and make choices to impact it in accordance. So I hope that today we have began to think this thing through. And I hope that we as wisdom seekers will use the wisdom we gain to have a positive impact and affect this AI movement in a way that hopefully we can avoid some of the unintended consequences that are potential. They're there. They will happen. It's a matter of to how much and to what degree. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for everyone's comment. Mosin, glad to have you with us. Thanks for being there. And I hope that we will all seek wisdom in regards to AI and exercise our influence in regards to it in a wise fashion. So thank you, everyone. See you guys next week, next Monday morning, 8 o'clock. Look forward to our time, and hope that you will all seek and gain wisdom in all areas of your life and live in accordance. Thank you, everyone. God bless. Have a great rest of your week. Take care now. Bye.